Cops, criminals, commandos. Cops, they serve and protect. Criminals, try to earn their respect. Commandos, strike when opposition is a threat to our seas. Govern the country against foreign enemies. First episode was the cop and the criminal. Now we got commandos like 5-star generals. Come to share their war stories from the streets to the pen, all the way to overseas. Band of brothers on 3 separate paths. Bring them all together, now we got a podcast.
All right, back in your life, episode number 22. 22, right?
Yeah, 22.
You'd think before this show started, I would actually just like look at that to see what it is, so I wouldn't have to ask this question every show. But
Not one time. Have you ever done that?
I know.
Not once.
I need to look at
It's
it.
just become part of the show now.
Yeah. It's like what episode is it?
Wait, 22? And then confirmation.
It's like,
Right.
you idiot. It is literally one more than what you forgot last time. I literally have an app where I have my daughter's birthdays written down in there, and everybody thinks I'm just like a complete, like, they're like, you're not a good parent. And I'm like, no, I just don't remember shit very well.
That's my world's worst. Growing up, I could remember like baseball players, batting averages, home run, like all this stuff, just dumb stuff. Birthdays are my enemy. Like I can't.
I couldn't tell you my parents' birthdays right now. Do you know your parents' birthdays?
I know they're both in March.
Yeah, I know mine are both in February, but I don't know the day.
Yeah. One of them's the 25th and one of them's the 5th, but I can't recall which one is which.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of your parents, man, are they both still together?
Oh, yeah. Yeah. 53 years married.
Yeah. Would you attribute a lot to the way you are to them?
They definitely instilled morals and character into me, no doubt about it. I mean, I was such a bad kid growing up. I mean, they really should have beat me to death. But if I didn't have them, I might have been a whole lot worse still. So,
Really?
I mean, yeah, they really did.
What was bad about you? You got in a lot of trouble?
I did. I was very rebellious. I mean, I didn't get in a lot of trouble with the law, but man, I like to party and run wild with the girls. And, I was just really, really rebellious. I mean,
Yeah.
And they somehow stuck it out with me. Prayed a lot, I think.
You didn't get whippings?
No, not really. I mean, Dad might have whipped me a couple of times. He'd say it was only like once, but
Yeah.
Mom really reined him in. She didn't
Really?
want him beating us. Yeah.
You were her baby, so.
Oh, for sure. No doubt.
Do you have any brothers or sisters?
A sister. I have a sister, and she was just as bad as I was, but she was real sneaky.
Yeah.
And so she never got caught. And we actually shared a bedroom at one point, not because, I mean, we had a big enough house, but we stayed in the same room, and we were young, like 7 and 9 or 7 and 10. And she was giggling and making all this noise. And my dad comes in with a belt and he's like, I've had enough. Get out of the bed. And he whoops my ass. And I'm like, it wasn't me. It was her. But he wasn't having it.
Yeah.
And she just sat over there in the bed.
Let it happen?
Yeah.
Damn.
And then, I mean, it's over. And I'm like, I can't believe. And she just, sorry.
Yeah, man. My sister was a savage like that too. My sister's like 5 foot tall.
Right.
I mean, she may be a little taller, like 5'2" or something, but she's like this short little girl, high pitched voice, but she is very intimidating. But she was 7 years older than me.
Right.
So like, oh my God, she was a savage. I was telling my girls this story the other day. I might have told you this story too, but I remember because I told my kids that Santa Claus isn't real. And the whole reason behind that was because I didn't want them to think God wasn't real. We're Christian, and I'm trying to raise them up to believe in God. And I know I cuss a lot. People say, you're a Christian and you cuss.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I don't want them to believe that I was lying to them about God this whole time too, about mythological creatures. But I did wait for them to ask me if Santa Claus was real.
Right.
And my youngest daughter started asking me that. And she's like, you ruined my childhood. And they said, when did you find out that Santa Claus wasn't real? And I remembered, and I was heartbroken because my sister came up to me and she goes, Santa Claus isn't real, right? And I was like, what are you talking about? I was like 13. But she was like, what are you talking about? And she's like, Santa Claus isn't real. She goes, what'd you ask for Christmas this year? And I was like, I told her it was something Ninja Turtle-y. I was big into Ninja Turtles. And she was like, go downstairs in the basement. And she's like, look up in the ceiling of the basement. She goes, what you asked for from Santa Claus is there. And I went and looked, and sure enough, what I asked for was there. And I was like, okay, maybe mom and dad got it. But she goes, well, just wait. Wait until tomorrow morning. Whenever the presents under the tree, they're going to package it and market it as from Santa Claus. And if that's the Santa Claus gift, you know he's not real. And I came downstairs the next morning, and I was distraught. I was destroyed. There was the present from Santa Claus under the tree.
And you're still stained to this day.
It still bugs me, man. It still bugs me. But my sister was mean as shit. But yeah, that's nuts. I just kind of was curious to what makes you the guy on TikTok now. Like we talked about last week, though, like it does take somebody with a checkered past to have all this experience to be able to give people advice.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
You kind of remind me of like I was that way too. I was the big partier. I was the guy that you would bring. We had parties at my house. My dad was always gone, and so I'd always throw parties at my house, and we'd have 50 people in my house and be tossing parties.
And so, as an adult, have you looked back at your experiences? I mean, did you learn from your growing up experiences, and you're like, yeah, I know better now, or is it just part of your past? And hey, we partied.
Man, I look at it like it was fun. Like I don't have any regrets for anything. I regret because there's like some things I did where I hurt some people.
Right.
I regret that. You know what I mean? Like I didn't like physically hurt people, but like I don't know if I want to say that. I guess it's way past the statute of limitations, so I could probably talk about it. But like I like drove my truck on the baseball field in the high school, and I know that probably cost somebody some money.
Right.
And that bugs me. I rolled my pickup on a practice football field, and I'm sure that cost somebody some money.
Yeah.
And so that bothers me. You know, like I probably cost my school some money, and I look back at that now, and I'd look at if a kid did that now, I'd be like, what a piece of shit.
Yeah. I did similar. I mean, things like that too, that I look back and I'm so regretful of things like that.
What's the craziest thing you've done when you were in high school? What's the one thing that sticks out in your mind?
Oh God, the list is long.
You can tell me. Nobody's listening.
Nobody watches this.
You know, I'm not even sure I want to answer that, to be honest with you, Zach, because people have always asked me on TikTok to delve into the wild stories from my youth.
Yeah.
And I don't ever want people to feel like I am glorifying you know, those type of things. And so I think if I tell too many dark stories, they may get the idea that
it's okay.
Yeah. So
well, because you are an example. You do need to set an example for people, because you've got 260,000 people that look up to you.
Right.
I mean, not one of those people are following you because you're just cool. I mean, they're looking up to you for something.
Right.
You know what I mean? So I get that. I'll tell you mine.
Go ahead.
Over by my house, there's the American Legion, right?
Mm.
And there's a toilet sitting out there. This is my senior year. And one of my buddies looks at me and goes, hey, Lee, my name's Zach Lee. So they always call me by my last name. They said, hey, Lee, what are we going to do with that toilet right there tonight? And I was like, Everybody started talking to me, like, let's put it on a business in Main Street and stuff like that. My dad was sitting there and he goes, I've got 250 foot of cable in the back of my truck. You could probably put it on the water tower. And we were like, that's it. And so I tied the cable around my waist and I climbed up the water tower and pulled the toilet. All four of us pulled up the toilet and put it on that railing around the water tower.
Mm.
And then we signed it like dumbasses.
Yeah, that was smart.
Yeah, we all put our names on it. And so on that Monday at school, we went back to school. That Monday at school, my principal, his name was Golden Bear, and this big old burly son of a gun that everybody was pretty afraid of. And we got SWATs back then too. I remember there was this long hallway, and I was going to ag class, and he was standing out there looking up at the water tower.
Right.
And he was going like this. Well, I had to walk past him to go to ag class. And I was like, it's one of those moments where I was just like holding my breath. I was like, fuck, here we go. Oh God, he's got me. And then I walked past him. He didn't say anything at first. I got almost to the road and he goes, Lee. I turned around and said, yes, sir. He said, did you put the commode on top of the water tower? I said, yes, sir. And he's like, get up there and push that off tonight. And I said, yes, sir. I started to walk away again, and he goes, Lee. I turned around and he goes, never mind, it's too dangerous. Leave it up there. And so I had heard, this is a rumor, so I don't want to say this is completely true, but I had heard a city crew, so it wouldn't fall off, and because it's right next to a highway or a road, that a city crew went up there and bolted the toilet down because it was too hard to get it off. Like it was too dangerous for them to throw it off.
Right.
Or risk it falling off onto a car or something, that they went up and bolted it down, which the water tower doesn't exist anymore. They toppled it. So I don't know, man. I thought that was pretty, that's my wild story, dude.
Okay. I do have one story that I will share.
We got him.
But the only reason I'm going to share this story is because it's not something that anybody could do now. I mean, nobody could repeat this. In today's technology, you can't do this.
Do not put a toilet on the water tower. It's very dangerous, and I'm lucky to be alive.
Right. And somebody could recreate that if they
do not do it.
But so, I mean, and this is just horrible. And, you know, this wasn't a crazy, I mean, like we were drinking or anything. I mean, we were just shitheads. I mean, really. So, you know, we weren't drinking or anything. We were just young. And I think probably we weren't even drinking age when we did this. But, you know, back in the day, you know, you get a phone book out and you could see like Mr. and Mrs. Ken and Barbie, whatever. And we'd call these lines. And I mean, there was no caller ID or anything like that. And so we'd call, and if Ken answered, we'd be like, is Barbie there? Can I tell her who's calling? Well, who's this? Well, this is her husband. Oh, she didn't tell me she was married, and hang up. And we'd just laugh and we'd call the next one. And we're like,
oh, shit.
How many relationships could they tell? Could they tell that we were kids, or were they like, what the hell? And go start a fight with their spouse.
Yeah.
And we were probably like 12 or 13 years old. Surely they could tell that we were
That's hilarious.
stupid kids.
You feel bad about that?
Oh,
now?
I feel horrible about it, thinking about any kind of issues we may have ever caused for
good grief,
these poor couples.
Wow.
Yeah, but you got to understand. I mean, kids are kids. We're not the only people that did stuff like that. I mean, we would pray. Oh, I remember one time, we called a psychic. It was a 900 number. On my buddy's phone, we called us actual psychic. You know, they have those infomercials on there, and then it'd be like, to get your psychic reading today, call 900-935. And then, so we called it, and they knew we were kids. And I remember the psychic saying something like, does your mother know that you're on the phone with a psychic? And then the mother like repeated what the psychic said right after she said it. We were like, what the fuck? And we like closed off of it real quick. But then she got like a $400 bill.
Wow.
You remember those 900 numbers were ridiculous. They were like $60 a minute or some shit.
I don't remember because I never called them.
Yeah. Well, I always called on my buddy's phones because my dad would have fucking turned my insides.
Their dads probably did the same thing.
Yeah, but it wasn't me, so I was okay with it. Steven, you had some questions for him, right?
Yeah. So, for one, I went through your TikTok the other day, and we were talking about how last week, and we kind of briefly said something today as well. And I was reading comments, and someone said, "What does give you what makes you have the right to give people advice?" I forget exactly how he worded it. And you literally said exactly, you were like, because I've been through a lot. You didn't say shit, but I've been through a lot of crap. I've done made a lot of mistakes, I think is what you said.
Right.
I made a lot of mistakes. And I just, I don't know. To me, it was something that was, I think experience goes a long way. I think there's, even if you go to work, if you go into life or whatever it is,
Right.
I think experience it should be valued more than school or more than whatever else.
And I've certainly never, ever wanted to come across as, you know, I'm perfect, or, you know, I'm a psychiatrist, psychologist. I've studied life. I've never wanted to come across as that. You know, I've always wanted to be upfront, and sometimes I get a little too personal on TikTok, you know, with my life when I talk about, you know, mistakes I've made or whatever. And sometimes I regret that. So there's just another mistake, you know,
Right,
that
yeah,
I make
for sure.
sometimes.
So, what advice would you give to women in abusive relationships?
I mean, if it's physical or emotional abuse, you got to get out of that. I mean, you cannot stay in an abusive relationship. And I know, you know, how hard that is. I mean, I get messages all the time from women that are, I love him, and, you know, he's said this and this is what he's done. And, you know, I just want to, what can I do to make sure this doesn't happen anymore? And I mean, they'll give me this detailed list of things that he's done over 5 years. And I'm like, sweetheart, it's not going to change. You know, he's been doing that. That's your reality. So until you get a belly full, that's what it's going to be. So my suggestion is don't get a bellyache, because you're going to, don't wait till you get full. Just go ahead some women are like, well, I don't have the money. I mean, he supports me. And I've thought this for years. And then I saw another woman on TikTok talking about it here about 6 months ago. And I was like, yes, you know, women that they don't have an income, but they go grocery shopping, you know, hit the $10 over on the groceries, or whatever over a period of time, they can save some money up. And then, you know, stash it away, find a hiding spot. And when they have enough money that they can get out, then get out. But they can't stay in it.
Okay, so I have a caveat to that question. So what would you say to the woman that has successfully gotten out of an abusive relationship, but then she goes into another relationship with an actual, genuine, good guy, right? And then she still carries some of those, I don't know, insecure tendencies with her, and she carries that into him, and he's having a hard time dealing with that baggage. What would you tell that guy on how to deal with that?
Oh, that's a pretty good question, Zach.
Yeah.
Let's put you on the spot here.
Yeah. I mean, whether it's that situation or a girl that's grown up that was sexually abused, or her parents weren't good to her, abandoned her. I mean, it really does, whatever the woman's circumstance. I mean, everybody comes with baggage. So if that's her particular baggage, I mean, I think all you can really do is, I really stress communication in every relationship. I mean, you have to communicate. And if she is willing to communicate whatever her issues are to him, he needs to be a listener and, you know, give her reassurance that whatever the issue is that she's dealing with, that he's there for her, that he wants to comfort her and be a listener for her if she needs to talk about those issues, and just really give her a lot of reassurance that, you know, he's not that guy. He's not the one that did that, but
and show her, more importantly, it's just going to take some time, right?
On everything. A breakup takes time, you know, everything. You know, you get distance between you. Everything gets a little easier. Maybe never goes away, but it will get a little easier.
Yeah. I get to where a guy would have to prove to her that he's not the same as them.
Oh yeah.
And then as long as she's open from the very beginning too about like, hey, I've been through this and this may carry over some. And then if he signs up for that, then he's going to have to be willing to take on that challenge of showing her that he's not going to be the same way.
Right.
The same way as he was before. So,
but I'll tell you a mistake that a lot of guys that I've seen and I've even been part of, you know, guys that they take on, not just guys, women too, people that take on somebody who has a lot of emotional baggage. They typically have that savior, you know, mentality. They want to, you know, they're attracted to that person because they need somebody to help them. And so they're attracted to that, and they're like, I can save this person. I can help this person. And then they end up, so often they do so much for this person, and the person oftentimes doesn't even feel worthy because of their history. But then it's like a 180. I've seen it so many times. A 180, they start, this person cares for me so much, and they're willing to do so much for me. I'm just going to sit back and taking advantage of this. I mean, I've never had this before. And then after a period of time, the person that's trying to save them starts getting resentful because they're like, look, I'm here to save you. I'm doing everything for you, and you're not showing any appreciation for all this stuff that I'm doing for you.
This is a
Wow.
perfect segue for anything in my life.
Yeah. I was gonna say you are talking about Steven right now, buddy.
So one of my favorite videos. I know last week we talked about Zach's and the taco stand, and my favorite one, and because it just spoke to me, was when you were talking about why do guys stay in relationships with crappy women, with people that just treat them bad. And you mentioned that you think it's either one of two things. Either the woman was a certain way in the beginning,
Right.
and then they changed, and then that man is holding on to what they had in the beginning and thinking it's going to come back around, and then they're going to be that person again.
Right.
Or they like the sex.
Yeah.
But for sure, mine was the former. Like I so much held on to what was there in the beginning, and I stayed in relationships that were way too long, thinking it was going to come back around.
Yeah. Maybe it'll change because this would be so great if it was like this.
Right.
If you have those ifs in there, yeah, I mean, you got to go. Like I told him, I kept telling him, I was like, listen, because when I met him, and it feels like yesterday, he was 28.
Right.
And he is 32 now. I was like, I know we're in our, you're in your 20s, but now you're in your 30s. But life is too short to be wasting large chunks of time on somebody that's never going to be working out. It's like you've got to pull that Band-Aid off. It's going to hurt for a little bit, but not for very long, right?
And it's such a hard thing
It is.
for everybody to do, because when they do give you that at the beginning and it's so good,
Yeah.
it is hard to let go of that thought that, I want that so bad because it was so good. But I mean, let's say you have 6 months of greatness and then things change. I wouldn't give more than another 6 months of it not being like it was. So maybe that's a new rule I'm making up right now. Whatever they gave you that was great, you need to identify, okay, it was great for 6 months. And now we're at 8 months of terribleness. I'm out. I can't.
God, 8.
So my 4 to 5 months
is
of like fantastic, just great relationship, and then I spend a year and a half after that. That's not what you.
No.
Right.
It was pretty apparent to me in your situation. And I want to make it clear, I'm not talking crap about your ex at all.
No.
It's just like, I feel like, because like me, here, I was saying this. I'm just going to skip on and ask you this question because it's something that I've been genuinely asking myself lately, because I think it may be true, but I'm not sure. So I've been in relationships before where I've treated women like crap. Right. But now my wife comes along and I treat her good. I can confidently say that I treat her wonderfully. And I always wonder if it's because she's the way she is that makes me treat her that way, that maybe we're just such a perfect match that I treat her that way. If I did get back with those older women, I'd go back to treating them like, do you think that there's specific matches that make you act a better way, or did I just get older and grow up?
I think you just must have gotten older. I mean, in my opinion, you got older and grew up.
Yeah.
For me, I've been, any woman I've been with in a serious relationship, I've been the same with her from day one all the way to the end. I feel like I've always treated them,
consistently at least,
and better than myself. I mean, I overdid, I always wanted to make them happy. And I've learned over time, you can't make somebody happy. No. They have to find happiness within themselves. But
yes,
I've spent a lot of years trying to make women, genuinely happy, and they couldn't. So
no, you can't make someone else happy. And if they're even reaching out to you to make them happy, then.
Right.
And I think you're right. Maybe you're right. But maybe I just grew up and I didn't really have an example of the way you're supposed to treat a woman or anything like that. And I've never laid my hands on a woman or anything like that. But it was more like about me. Like it was more about me. And then when I took that 1 year break from women, I realized that I was, having these problems. Women were always leaving me and stuff like that. And I took a minute and I stopped, and it hit me like a ton of bricks. I was like, oh shit.
Right.
I'm the problem. It's me. Like I was the problem. And I was like, oh, I've got to take a break, reset, figure out how I do this. And then I met Angela. And I just wonder if she's the reason, like she's so great and wonderful that I treat her great because of our chemistry together. And if I were to get back with the other women that I've been with where I had the problems, if I would go back to that same guy, it's just a theory that popped in my head. I wouldn't know because, I mean, this is all new, you know, so.
Right. Well, I think the 1 year break was definitely a wise decision.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're having consistently, you know, women leaving you, then, or just bad relationships, yeah, that break is pretty crucial, which is something I've only done a 1 year break one time in my life. And I was 19 or 20 when I did it.
No shit. Big. Since then, you haven't had a year
I've
off?
never had a year off since then.
Yeah.
And, you know, look, I could get very deep into my personal life, how things transpired, you know, from one to the next. And I mean, that would be a 2-hour show probably for me to go through, you know, that. But if I could go back and do it over, I probably would have taken a little bit more of a break in between. But the way things happened, it wasn't possible to do that.
Yeah. Yeah. It was hard for me. It was hard for me. And actually, some of that year, like I didn't take a year off on purpose. Like some of that year was because I was trying to get back out there. I was married for a better part of a decade.
Right.
And when I got married, social media, or at least dating profiles and stuff like that, didn't exist. Like you just met people out. But then whenever I broke up, Tinder existed and stuff like that. Well, dude, you put me in a room. I didn't know how to talk to a woman because I was actually faithful. Like I didn't know how to talk. I was scared to death of women. And so I didn't know. I still wouldn't be able to because I met Angela. She was my nanny. She was my babysitter.
Right.
You know what I mean? So you put me in a room full of women and be like, Zach, go pick one of them up right now. I'd be like, they're not just going to come over here and talk to me first. So I don't know.
So last question I have for you is, what advice do you have for men dating women or getting into a relationship with women that has kids?
That has kids?
Yep, sorry, I messed that whole thing up. But yeah, when they very first are talking to a woman that has kids, what's your advice to them?
Okay, because I've been married to 3 women now, all 3 of them. Well, the first 2 had young kids. And so I can tell you from experience, you have to make sure before you get, first date, you need to be talking about, you know, child rearing. You know, what do you agree on how to raise children? What role would she want you to play if y'all, you know, if the relationship developed, you know, would she want you to be a disciplinarian? All of that stuff really needs to be addressed. Right from the beginning. Don't get 6 months into a relationship before you start talking about, because those kids, that's going to be the focal point of your relationship if you're going to get with somebody that's got kids. So I would say a tremendous amount of communication about how it's all going to develop as a family unit if things progress.
Dude, and if they don't match, you need to get out of there.
Absolutely.
Day one. If they don't match up right away, then you need to get out of there instantly.
For men or women, I don't care how attractive the other person is. If you're not aligned in your thought process, to me, it's so important to get that out there in the first few dates. Figure it out. Because if you're not, I don't care how good looking they are, move on. Find somebody else that is aligned with your way of thinking. Steven,
you need to stop asking them questions that directly are impacting your life right now.
I was talking to this woman few weeks ago, and she has kids, and we were I was asking those questions. What role would you see in the future when in my life, in y'all's life with your kids? And man, she was like, I've never thought about that. I'm like, well, you better, because this is and we're not really talking anymore. But that was kind of a big deal for me. Was what role, and would I be a guy that's coming in and not in the beginning, right? But eventually, would I be the disciplinarian? Would I, and then she kind of thought about it, and she said, "Man, I don't think I'd be comfortable with that. I think you're just there as a friend, and that was it. And I
And
said,
then you wouldn't be comfortable with that.
right. And I told, and this was my response was, and this is probably why we're not really talking, was I'm not going to be disrespected in my house.
Right.
I realize there's going to be stuff that you're not comfortable with, and I'm okay with that. We can talk about that, but you have to be there. If they do something to me, if I ask them to do something and they don't do it, you have to be there backing me up, because if you're not there and I'm not respected in that way, then they can do whatever they want.
Right.
And I'm not ever going to be respected.
Yeah. You're 100% right.
And that doesn't mean I have to go spank her kids. That's not what I was even talking about. But
You got to have some leverage. Yeah.
right. I mean, I have to at least be able to take something away.
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
That is one issue, and I won't say which marriage it was, but you know, she wanted me to, hey, you know, take care of my child, but if you disagree with something that happens, don't do anything about it.
right.
And I'm like, look, no, it doesn't work this way.
Right.
If I'm going to help you take care of your child, I'm going to be the father figure. She doesn't have dad anyway. I'm the dad. I'm going to serve the role as dad.
For
But
sure.
we never talked about that before we got together. It was just, we figured it out as we went. And that wasn't our major issue. You know, it had nothing to do with our divorce by any means. And I tried to be the best dad I could, but I was young and I was not a great dad, really, to be honest with you on that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, we've all been through that. It took me a couple years ago when I decided, I told you I quit drinking and I
Right.
quit smoking. And like, I realized that I wasn't being the dad that my kids deserve. We've all been through
Right.
that moment. It takes guys a whole lot longer to mature. Some guys a lot. I mean, for me, it for sure did. Like, it took me a lot longer to mature. I'm not saying I'm like the most mature guy in the world right now, but you know, I mean, I'm better, but
It did with me with relationships. I feel like I was pretty mature with most things, but relationships, it took me a while to mature.
yeah. Yeah. And you're still dealing with getting with people that you shouldn't type of deal.
So I'm still maturing.
Yeah, you're still maturing.
Aren't we all? We're all just still maturing.
Right.
Well, you
You learn.
got to stop marrying with your penis. That's for sure.
I mean, you get into stuff, and you can either look at it as, oh, I've wasted my time, or you can look at it as an experience and what to look for in the future.
Right.
So
Well, that's that I know it. Like, from my mistakes, I know exactly what I want now
Yeah.
because of the mistakes I've made with women. I know exactly what I want in a relationship, and I've got it now because of those mistakes.
Right.
you and I have had those conversations with my stuff.
Yeah.
I'm not going to settle for something. I know exactly what I'm looking for right now. And that could take 15 years. I don't know, but I'm not going to settle for something less than that. So.
Yeah. Now, what I was telling him is because of, like, I know you're going through a hard time right now, and you went through a couple of years where you went through hell. But now, if another one comes along and she even gives you a smell
Right.
of the way this woman was to you, you're going to bounce, and you're going to bounce quick. But now you're going to have a really good idea of what you want going forward. That way, next time, you'll be able to pick more, and you'll be able to let people go a little quicker because you don't want a tough situation
Right.
that you get out of. So how many kids is too many in a relationship for you? How many, like, if a guy's fixing to date somebody and they're really jiving, and then a month later she's like, well, she probably should have told him a little sooner, but a month later she's like, I've got 4 kids.
Yeah. Absolutely. I mean, if I'm a month into it and she's just now telling me she's got 4 kids, I'm out.
I say that's a little unfair. I think they should tell right up front.
Yeah. I mean, in fact, that's usually, I mean, if I'm trying to get to know somebody, that's like one of the first questions I would have asked coming up, you know, how many kids you got? Are you wanting any more? I mean, that's pretty crucial, but I mean, my second wife had 3 sons when I married her. And then we had my son and then I married her is how that worked. So we had 4 kids, you know, and I was the sole provider and, you know, took care of all the kids. And I mean, I was okay with doing that. I mean, I didn't have a problem raising up all them kids and working a lot of hours. there was no reciprocation in that,
Yep.
marriage. And after a while, I just felt like a workhorse, and I couldn't get anything.
Yeah. Give and not get anything.
It was a give and no take. It was a constant give. And
Yeah. Well, let me ask you a question. So let's say a guy had been to prison before. I have an old buddy like this. He'd been to prison before. Well, that's in the past, right? He's got his shit together. He's great now. Great guy. Job, all this stuff. But he had spent some time in prison. Should he tell a woman right away about his past? Because it seems like a lot of the women back off once they find that out. Or would it be okay for him to at least get a couple weeks in to talk in the talking phase or whatever before telling them that?
My personal opinion is I think it's fine to wait a couple of weeks, because I don't believe in giving some information like that to somebody that you may not want to see. He may not want to date her after a week, so she doesn't need to know that.
Yeah.
So until he's sure that that's somebody that he wants to continue to spend time with, at that point, he needs to let her know, because, if he doesn't want to keep getting too involved and then her bounce on him.
Yeah.
So I think when you are sure that that's somebody that you want to continue to spend time with, that's when you let some of the dirty stuff out of the closet.
Yeah. Well, and plus it's the past, right? It really shouldn't be relevant in anything. I mean, if it was for something like murder or some shit,
right.
different, right? But like if it's like for drugs or something, or you were just young and did some crazy shit, that's different, right?
Right. Absolutely.
I mean, you don't owe people your past. You do owe us, if it's going to affect their life directly, you do owe them that information.
I was just about to say, if a woman has kids and this guy is registered offender, then
well, yeah.
Don't date that guy,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
Right,
Don't
but I'm just
date
saying,
that
like,
guy.
if that guy comes up a week later, I'm like, no, I'm out.
Well, yeah, he shouldn't even be. That should be his first question. If he's a registered sex offender, do you have kids?
Right.
Are there going to be any kids around? Sorry, can't. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It shouldn't even be a consideration.
Have you seen that thing with Gemini going on TikTok? That Gemini official guy that he came out on TikTok?
Somebody asked me the question yesterday if I had thoughts on Gemini, and there was a guy that asked me a question that's name was Gemini that I did a video back to, and I was like, why is this person asking me on this video if I have opinions on that guy I already did a video on? So I went past it. So no.
So you don't know what's going
I have
on?
no idea. Tell me.
So Gemini official, right, was a giant creator on TikTok.
Okay. Is this the guy that was hitting up a minor?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah.
And he openly admitted to it. And then a bunch of bigger creators like yourself, in the same range as you, got together and they said that they don't want him on the app anymore because he made a bunch of like a 4 or 5, 6-part series of him admitting that he was talking to an underage female and that he had fooled around with her.
Wow.
And then so TikTok ended up banning him. Well, everybody's asking bigger creators what they have thoughts on Gemini, but you don't even know this scenario.
I didn't know his name. I did see one video where he was being interviewed by Papa, I can't think of his name, another huge creator that does a lot of podcast interview type deals.
Yeah.
And on that particular video, he was like, okay, I'm not going to be on the app anymore, but hey, here's a shout out on these shoes, and then starts shouting out his friends that, had supported him or whatever. And I thought, just go away. I mean,
yeah,
you
need to go lay low for a little bit at least.
Right.
Yeah.
And, if he's admitted that he's fooled around, with a young girl, how old was the girl? Do you know?
No, I don't want to say it. I don't want to say you could probably look it up, Steven, if you wanted to. Just look up Gemini official with how old she was. But
do we know how old he is?
He's in his 20s, I think. But it was definitely somebody he's saying he doesn't know and stuff like that. But like a lot of people say, because me and you talked about this too before, that I don't care if she's 21 and you're 90. You are both, as long as you're both adults. Right. That's okay.
I think 21 and 90 is still a stretch. 26 and 90. I think 21 to me is still a baby. 22. It's like you've had a full year of experience, I guess.
Of full blown adulthood.
Right.
Yeah.
After 21. So maybe 22 and up.
But like morally speaking, right? Like if a 90-year-old was dating a 22-year-old,
Morally, I
cares?
guess. I mean,
who cares, right? Because like they're both adults, they're both making adult decisions. Like we have no place to judge them. But I mean, if a 22-year-old's with a 14-year-old, that's still a baby,
Right.
You know?
well, and I don't know if you saw the video I responded to yesterday. A kid was asking me, he was 17. His best friend was a girl that was 13 and wanted to be with him. And he's like, what,
Yes,
what?
I seen that one. Yeah.
And I was like, no. Well, a lot of people, crucified him in the comments. And
I did not see the comments.
I get it because, they're like, oh, he wants to groom her. But he came back in the comments and he said, because I told him at the end, I said, you need to explain this to her and don't start a relationship.
Yeah, you need to stop now.
And he came back in the comments and he said, thank you so much. I've talked to her. She's agreed, that we're just going to stay friends. And I'm sorry, I didn't mean to seem weird. I'm just really new to the whole dating scene entirely. So I don't know what this kid's, mental capacity is, or if he's never had a girlfriend, or, it could be any number of things. I'm still wrong. You can't, 17-year-olds and 13-year-olds don't need to be dating anybody.
Okay. So he has had, I guess, 3.5 million followers on TikTok.
Yeah, he had a lot. He was big.
He is 20 years old and the girl was 15.
Yeah.
So bad. So I don't know even the story, but when this came out, he shifted the blame to the minor because she was wearing inappropriate clothing.
Oh no! Yeah.
Not only do you mess up, right, but now you're trying to justify it.
That's a classic child predator. Is that when you first get caught? It's just like police interviews, right?
Right.
Like when you're first interviewing a suspect, right? I'll start in the interview room and I'll be like, let's say we're interrogating him for a murder, right?
Mm.
And when you first get in the room, it's, no, I didn't kill that guy. And then about 20 minutes later, it's like, well, I didn't kill that guy, but I was there.
Right.
And then it turns into, well, I didn't kill that guy and I was there, but I did help him dispose of the body. And then 20 minutes later, it turns into, well, I helped him kill him, but it was really just him that killed him. He pulled the trigger.
Right.
And then it turns into, all right, I killed him and that guy wasn't even there.
Right.
Like people ease in to admitting the truth and their volume because they're uncomfortable about how people are going to react to it. And I'm sure that's what he was doing. He's blaming it on her. So
we're at 45 minutes.
That whole statement of she was wearing inappropriate clothing reminds me of, you've heard rapists, or people say,
yes,
you don't want to get raped, don't wear short skirts. Give me a break.
Yeah, that is not an excuse.
That's like somebody eats a whole apple pie and they're like, well, the apple pie looked too damn good. It's the apple pie's fault,
right.
Yeah. Well, I had a conversation with a guy where he thought that should some of the blame be on the woman for wearing clothing on that guy? And
no,
I'm like, no,
absolutely
are you
not.
kidding me?
If they don't want to be looked at, then yeah, but not for being
for action.
Right. If you don't want to, if you don't want a guy to look at your boobs, then don't wear a shirt that comes down to your nipples. I mean,
the despicable act is the rape. That's the despicable act, and that woman's going to have to live with that for the rest of her life. You see what I'm saying? Like, if you can't control yourself from having sex with a woman because of what she's wearing, it doesn't sound like you have a whole lot of self-control anyway, and you need to go get fucked.
God, and things are so crazy now. And Zach he's proof of this for me. We're out somewhere. I'm like, oh, God, look at that girl. Man, how old do you think she is? Every single time I look at a girl, my first thing is, God, do you think she's young? Because it's hard to tell now.
Okay,
Yeah.
I want out of this conversation.
And you're done.
No, yeah, it is true. It is true. You don't even want to say anything anymore because
Man, yeah, it's just like I instantly feel bad because God, I hope she's not. I hope she's not young. Cause I
can't say anything anymore anyway.
Some you can tell, but some of them it's just hard.
Yeah,
I'm
I
married now.
understand.
I almost wrecked into a gas pump looking at a girl's ass with my wife in the car.
Yeah,
Yeah, there was this girl that was filling up with gas at the 108 over here, and she was like, babe, and I was like almost wrecked into one of those pillars when I was looking at her ass, and then I was like, oh my God, she was like, she wasn't even that hot. Did you see her face? And I was like, she had a face? I'm like, oh my God. Luckily, my wife's cool because I would have died that day if she wasn't. So, but I wanted to go in. Did you want to talk about your podcast a little more this week?
Yeah, I mean, we're still rolling along, trying to get things in place to get the podcast started, come up with more ideas. And, you know, I'm hopeful that we're still on track for maybe the first or second week of November, to really get it started. I haven't got the phone number set up yet, but,
no, I'll work on that for you. I'll get the phone number. We'll work on that today in between renderings. But, so I wanted to be clear because I think a lot of people, like, from seeing the podcast will not be like this.
Right.
You're going to be getting 100% Jason in there. So I want to make that clear that it's not going to be a 2 co-host format. You're going to get all Jason. You may hear Steven every now and then. We haven't discussed the details of that. He's probably going to be shooting your questions to Jason, and then Jason's going to take it from there. So this is going to be Jason's podcast. So. And
I'm really looking forward to getting into the part of having, you know, live conversations with, you know, some of the listeners, and, you know, one-on-one discussing what the situation is and trying to in 30 minutes get through, you know, come to a resolution for people.
Yeah.
And so I'm really looking forward to that one-on-one interaction where I can have the conversation with them.
Yeah, and we're fully Zoom capable, so we can put you in touch with people via Zoom or telephone line.
Right.
Or also, if you just want to submit a question, you can submit it to the email that we set up. It could be a video question, it could be an audio question, or it can be just a plain old school written question. And we're going to try to get to all of them, let Jason answer all your questions. So I know I'm excited about it, man. I'm excited about seeing it. I'm looking forward to it because I'm a huge fan of what you do, and so to see you being able to do it for long term or for at longer length, it's gonna be exciting, man. It's gonna be a big deal.
Yeah, I'm super excited. I'm thankful for you guys too.
Well, we're thankful for you, thankful for the opportunity. We're gonna have a lot of fun. We're looking forward to it, and yeah, we're shooting for November. So yeah. All right. Well, thanks for coming in, and we'll probably see you in the future some more. And all right, 10-7 till next week.
Thanks.
Cops, criminals, commandos. Cops, they serve and protect. Criminals, try to earn their respect. Commandos, strike when opposition is a threat to our seas. Govern the country against foreign enemies. First episode was a cop and the criminal. Now we got commandos like 5-star generals. Come to share their war stories from the streets to the pen, all the way to overseas. Band of brothers on 3 separate paths. Bring them all together, now we got a podcast.